Hi, hey Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Today I want to talk about my bandsaw. If you remember last year I made a bandsaw cart and I put a nice outfeed table on it so I can take the logs, because I've been milling some lumber from logs that I got from trees that I took down to my yard. So now I've become a lumberjack on top of everything else. And to cut up those big slabs of wood, I've had to have a bigger outfeed table just to control it, because some of these slabs are 7 foot long or longer. And so I built the cart, I built this, and I incorporated my planer so that it didn't take up any more footprint than what this does. So it's worked out pretty good. The problem is that when I built the outfeed table, that eliminated my fence system and things like that. And so I really have a problem, and I need to make some more pieces for this now that it's set up this way. And this is going to be pretty much a permanent situation, what I have here. Sometimes I can roll it outside and use it. Sometimes I want to do it while I'm in the shop. But I like that versatile capability. And that's why I put a dust collector directly on this cart that supports the planer and the bandsaw. The problem with the bandsaw inherently is it really has no dust collection. It's like the miter saw. It just pretends to collect the dust. And really, most manufacturers, when they're collecting the dust, they almost always will put your dust collector somewhere on the lower box of your bandsaw where the lower wheel is. And what it's actually doing is just collecting the dust in here so that you don't build a whole lot of dust in here and pack it in around the wheel and create problems from all that debris in the working mechanism of the bandsaw. And that's what they're trying to do. And that's what all the dust collection is made to do. The real fine dust, and we all see it, when you use your bandsaw, you got dust over here, you got dust down here. Most of the dust really does go on the outside of the bandsaw. And collecting that is a particular challenge. I've seen a lot of different designs out there and ideas, but the one that seems to work the best is very simply setting up some kind of small chamber control using vacuum on a tube, and you take the tube and you put it underneath your cutting. So this would be under the table is the way they do it. And they slide it in there so that the blade goes through it. The air is rushing past it here so that all this sawdust, as it's coming off the blade, coming down, everything is sucked up through this tube into your shop vac or your 4-inch dust collector, whatever you're hooked up to. And this is probably one of the best designs you can have, is to have this small area collecting all this dust. In fact, I think you can get close to 100%, in my opinion, close to 100% collection right from this one spot. So you don't even need this down here, quite honestly, if this is doing its job. And I think we can do that. Mike Fulton, he has a channel on YouTube. I've watched him for a couple of 3 years. I've been a subscriber. And he's very entertaining, and over the years he's really evolved, and I enjoy watching his channel. In 1st of April, he made a new tabletop for his bandsaw. He did away with his cast iron table completely and mounted it, the new tabletop, right on his trunnions. And when he did it, it's actually a torsion box design, and he has an inside chamber for his dust collection built into that box. And I don't know how wide his box is here. And so obviously you're going to lose a little bit of capacity here. Now, let's talk about this for just a second, this capacity. I had 9 inches of capacity on mine. And one of the things that I like to do a lot is bandsaw boxes, and they can be as much as 6 inches thick. So I need at least 6 inches. Also, my jointer is a 6-inch jointer. Therefore, if I flatten a board on there and then I want to resaw it here or something, chances are it's going to be 6 inches wide at the most anyway. So the last 3 inches isn't as critical to me in most cases for most of the types of stuff that I do as I need. So what I wanted to do is I'm going to make my own box for dust collection that will sit on top of this table, so that when I take the table off, I can still do my big log stuff and be able to do some regular resawing and things like that right on my cast iron table. But most of the time when I'm sawing, I'm really working smaller area and I don't need the outfeed table. So I'm going to make a smaller table that comes out about 20 inches past my blade. And it's going to be about 30 inches wide this way. And there's a couple of reasons why I want to do it. And I'm going to make sure that my box is no more than 2 inches thick total. And that is so that will still leave me just over 7 inches of resaw capacity on here. And like I said, 99% of the time, that'll take care of it. I'll make it so that this table can be taken on and off in just a couple of minutes so that it's not going to be a major operation to take it off. And I'm also going to make it so that I have to take it off in order to change my blade. It just makes making that box a lot easier. If I try to incorporate it where I can take the blade off and everything while it stays in place, that would take a lot more. And I don't think it's really worth it for the 2 or 3 minutes that it takes to change out a blade. And as little as I change out my blade, because it's not my favorite thing to do, and most of the time, if I can avoid changing it altogether, I don't have a problem with that. So most of the time, I leave this 1/2 inch 3 TPI blade in here from 99% of what I do right now. If I'm going to do bandsaw boxes, then I might change it out. But if I do that, then I change it out for a few days. I do what I'm doing with that, and then I put this one back in. So I don't think it's going to be a problem having to take it off to change out the blade. And that's what I've decided anyway. But the box has to be able to fit here, be able to put it on and off easily, be able to put it in place consistently so it works perfectly each time I put it in. And it's going to have some features that I'm going to want from it. First and foremost, I want to get a 99-100% collection of all sawdust coming off this blade. If you watch the Mike Fulton video, you'll see on his, I think he's achieved that. And it looks like that works real well. And there's some subtle things that he did that make that work. And we'll go over that as I build this to see. But basically, he is collecting sawdust on the top of his table, as well as everything that goes past and is headed down toward the rest of the the bandsaw down below. And it's going to collect that so it doesn't go through. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to make sure that all sawdust is collected and never gets past the top of this tabletop, basically. Everything should be collected through that box that I'm going to build. Some of the features it's going to have is I want to be able to have a cross-cut sled, a circle cutting jig, and a fence system that I want to put on here. I want to be able to take my anchor jig, and you know about me and this anchor jig. You know, we're good buddies. We're on the first name basis. But I want to take this and be able to mount this on that table somewhere in this general area in just a minute or two, and use this as a fence system on this side of my blade. But I also want to be able to put it over here and mount it on that same table so that I can use the blade out here on this side of the blade. That way I can do all sorts of different things, like use it to do some resawing. I'll be able to use this fence to, I want to make a veneer jig where I can cut veneer out of some of these logs. I think that would be kind of nice to be able to do. And I should be able to cut veneer very easily. And using the jig, you're going to want to see that, because I think you'll find that this actually works really well. And again, it'll all be designed so I can take this jig on and off, and it's not going to be dedicated to this one machine, because I use it at a lot of other places too, as you already have seen. So I want it to be able to mount this jig on there easily. I want to be able to hook a hose up to it in just a couple of seconds so that it will collect the dust passively just by turning the machine on before I turn this on. I got to make it as easy as possible. I won't be using it. So those are the things that I'm looking to do. The other thing I want is that if I take the table off and I'm doing other types of work on the bandsaw, I still want to be able to use my crosscut sled, my fence system, at least the secondary fence system, because the other fence system I'm going to make is going to be incorporating a miter gauge. Because not only do I want this gauge to be here to use it as a fence, but I want to be able to put it on this way and drop it into a miter slot perpendicular to this one, and I can move it this way as a fence system and clamp it down. That way, if I do get any drift in a blade, I can adjust it using this saw. I'll be able to adjust it for that drift for that particular blade. So it's going to have 2 fence systems as well as these other jigs. That's the plan. So let me show you real quick on the schematic some of the ideas of how we're going to do this. So let's spin around here and have a seat. Just sit down, make yourself comfortable here. And this is what we're going to do. So I have my professional drawing here. And as I told you, this is the bandsaw from the side view. And this is the blade. This is where you would stand, is back here. And this is the lower box for the lower wheel. That dust collector is right here. So when the dust is coming down, all the dust, most of it actually is all outside. Very little of it gets into here. So this dust collector only collects to protect the bandsaw. We want to collect all this other dust too, and that's what this tabletop is going to do. So if you look at the tabletop from up above, it's going to set right on the table here. And we'll take this table, and inside I'll have this chamber right at where the blade goes through it, and it'll shoot off over to the side, and underneath I'll have a port to be able to plug my hose into it right here. So it should collect all this dust. My top plate, I plan on using some of that plexiglass that I still have left over. It's a 1/4 inch thick, and I'll make like a 4x4 plate or something, and it'll have holes in it so that it'll help collect the dust on the top of it. Pay attention to Mike Fulton's, how he did his plate, and you'll understand how I'm going to do mine, because I think that is one of the little subtle things that he did that really made a difference on collecting dust on his bandsaw. And I'm planning on doing the same thing in mine. So check that out and look at it very carefully, and you'll see. And it'll have 2 miter slots, one here and one here on this table. And then it'll also have inserts into the tabletop here and over here for the jig to set on, the Incra jig. So I can set it here, or I can turn it around and set it here and be able to use the fence on either side of my blade then. So also, if I use a circle cutting jig, because like I said, I want to make a fence, a cross cut sled, a circle cutting jig, and a veneer jig. And all of that I want to work on here, but the top 3, I also want them to work if I take this table off and I'm using the table straight up. I still want these 3 top ones to work on it. So that's the whole plan. We'll just have to give this a try. If you have any ideas, or if you did something special on your bandsaw that you think is a great idea, let me know, and I'll see if I can incorporate it into mine. And I'm sure that there'll be some other things I want to do as I go along here. This is going to take several videos, and they probably won't be in a row, one after the other type of thing. We just do this as we go along. I'll stop and I'll show you some of the things that I did as I go along. Like I'll show you the tabletop, what it looks like before I put the top layer on it and glue it in place, so you can kind of see the chamber set up and how the torsion box design is set up for it. So that's the plan. I hope you are interested. If you are, just stay tuned, because this, like I said, this is going to take a while. And I am looking for suggestions, so I would appreciate it. I do want to thank you for stopping by. If you like this video, say so. Most importantly, though, please come back again, because we're nowhere near done. Thanks. We'll see you again very soon.